Before Abraham Lincoln became a symbol of freedom, he was something far less certain, a man shaped by hardship, doubt, and an unpolished beginning on the American frontier. He was not born into power. He did not come from wealth. He did not inherit influence. Abraham Lincoln entered the world in a one-room log cabin in Kentucky in 1809. His family moved often, chasing survival rather than opportunity. The land was hard, the winters unforgiving, and formal education was nearly non-existent. Lincoln would later joke that his schooling amounted to less than a year in total. Yet even in those early days, something was different. Young Abraham was quiet, observant, and intensely curious. He borrowed books whenever he could, reading by firelight after long days of physical labor. While others slept, he studied. While others settled into routine, he searched for meaning. Books became his teachers, stories became his guides, ideas became his tools. But life was not gentle with him. At 9 years old, Abraham Lincoln lost his mother, Nancy Hanks Lincoln, to milk sickness. Her death left a wound that never truly healed. Those who knew him said a shadow followed him after that, a deep, reflective sadness that stayed with him throughout his life. Loss shaped him early. Responsibility followed close behind. By his teenage years, Lincoln was known for his strength. He split rails, hauled goods, worked fields, and earned a reputation as one of the hardest workers in the region. But while his hands labored, his mind wandered toward bigger questions. Why were some men rich and others poor? Why did laws seem to favor the powerful? Why did opportunity seem out of reach for so many? The frontier gave him more than hardship. It gave him perspective. As a young man, Lincoln left home and began to find his place in a rapidly growing America. He worked as a store clerk, a surveyor, a postmaster, and a boatman on the Mississippi River. Each job expanded his understanding of the country and the people who lived in it. It was on those river journeys that Lincoln first saw slavery up close. The sight of human beings chained, sold, and treated as property disturbed him deeply. Though he said little at the time, the experience carved itself into his conscience. It planted a question that would follow him for decades. What kind of nation allows this? Still, Lincoln did not begin as a radical. He was cautious, thoughtful, slow to anger. He believed in law, in order, and in the slow machinery of democracy. But he also believed something else, that ordinary people deserved a voice, and he knew what it meant to be ordinary. Unlike many leaders of his time, Lincoln did not speak from marble halls or inherited privilege. He spoke from lived experience. He understood struggle because he had lived it. He understood doubt because he carried it. This gave him a rare quality: empathy. People trusted him. They saw themselves in him. When he entered politics in Illinois, he wasn't the most polished speaker or the most connected figure, but he was honest, direct, grounded. He told stories instead of reciting theories. He listened more than he spoke. He admitted when he didn't know something. In a world of loud men chasing power, Lincoln was something different. He was patient. He lost elections, he faced ridicule, he battled depression. Many times his career seemed finished before it truly began. Yet he never abandoned the belief that America could become something better than it was. That belief would be tested beyond imagination, because the same nation that raised Abraham Lincoln was tearing itself apart. Tensions between free states and slave states were hardening. Political compromise was breaking down. Voices grew sharper. Trust eroded. America was heading for a reckoning. And soon, the quiet man from the frontier, the rail splitter, the self-taught lawyer, the reluctant politician, would be called to lead it through its darkest hour. Not because he sought greatness, but because history demanded someone who understood both suffering and hope. and Abraham Lincoln understood both better than most. When Abraham Lincoln took the oath of office in 1861, the United States was already unraveling. 7 Southern states had declared secession before he even stepped into the White House. Federal forts were under threat. Militias were forming. The nation Lincoln had spent his life trying to understand was breaking apart before his eyes. He had not campaigned on war. He had not promised revolution. He had asked only for unity under law. But history rarely offers leaders the circumstances they want. Within weeks, Confederate forces fired on Fort Sumter. The Civil War had begun. What had been political tension was now open conflict. Brother against brother, state against state, neighbor against neighbor. And at the center stood Abraham Lincoln, a man still doubted by many in Washington's elite circles. He faced impossible choices: preserve the Union at any cost, even if slavery survived, or strike at slavery and risk losing the fragile border states that still remained loyal. Every decision carried consequences measured in lives. Lincoln felt the weight of every casualty report. He visited hospitals. He read letters from grieving families. The war was not abstract to him. It was personal, constant, and relentless. Yet, even in the darkest months, Lincoln refused to surrender to despair. He listened, he studied, he surrounded himself with rivals, critics, and strong personalities, a cabinet filled with men who often disagreed with him. He believed that truth emerged from debate, not flattery. This was not weakness. This was deliberate leadership. He wanted the best ideas, not the loudest voices. As the war dragged on, Lincoln began to understand something deeper. Preserving the Union alone would not be enough. If the war ended and slavery remained, the nation would simply fracture again later. The conflict had exposed America's moral contradiction. A nation founded on liberty could not survive half free and half enslaved. So Lincoln made the decision that would redefine the war and his place in history. On January 1, 1863, he signed the Emancipation Proclamation. It did not free every enslaved person immediately. It was limited to Confederate territory, but its meaning was unmistakable. The Civil War was no longer just a fight to preserve the Union. It had become a fight for human freedom. The proclamation transformed the war effort. It allowed Black soldiers to join the Union Army. It gave moral purpose to sacrifice. It told the world that America's struggle was not more than territory. It was about the meaning of liberty itself. Lincoln knew the risks. Some accused him of going too far. Others said he had not gone far enough. Political allies wavered. Critics sharpened their attacks. But Lincoln did not retreat. He had crossed a line in history, and he would not step back. Still, the toll was devastating. The war ground on. Casualty lists grew longer. Families shattered. Towns emptied of sons. Lincoln aged before the nation's eyes. Lines deepened on his face. His shoulders carried a burden no one else could see, but everyone could feel. And yet, in moments of quiet, his faith in the American people remained. He believed the nation could heal. He believed democracy could survive. He believed sacrifice could give birth to a more just future. In 1864, with the war still raging, Lincoln ran for re-election. Many thought he would lose. War fatigue was heavy. Victory was uncertain. But Union battlefield successes turned the tide, and the people chose to keep him in office. They chose continuity. They chose steady leadership in the storm. Then, in April 1865, the war finally neared its end. Confederate forces surrendered. The Union had survived. Slavery as an institution was collapsing. A broken nation stood at the edge of reconstruction. Lincoln's focus shifted immediately. Not revenge, not punishment, but reunion. He spoke of malice to none and charity for all. He wanted healing, not vengeance. He believed that lasting peace required generosity, not vengeance. But history would not grant him the chance to finish that work. Just days after the war's end, Abraham Lincoln was assassinated. A single bullet silenced the man who had guided the nation through its greatest trial. He did not live to see Reconstruction. He did not see the long struggle that followed. He never witnessed the full reach of the freedom he helped set in motion. Yet his legacy endured. Abraham Lincoln proved that leadership is not about dominance, it is about responsibility. It is not about power, it is about purpose. He rose not because he sought greatness, but because he refused to abandon the nation when it needed him most ever. From a log cabin to the White House, from doubt to destiny, from ordinary beginnings to extraordinary courage, Abraham Lincoln became what history rarely produces, a leader shaped by the people who never forgot who he was leading.